We're going to talk about artificial intelligence today, but I don't think artificial intelligence is the only technology trend that you guys should be thinking about. There are too many disruptive trends, and I'll spend a little bit of time talking about them. Artificial intelligence is really the underlying layer of many of the things that are changing. It'll form the basis or the foundation. Like he said, it's not just about robots walking around, but it is about telling the robots what to do and synchronizing the various robots to be able to achieve a particular task with high efficiency, high accuracy, and a lot of those kind of things. Let me just begin with some stats. In 1990, there were only 1 million people that owned a mobile phone. Today, there are 7.2 billion in circulation. In 2014, people uploaded 1.8 billion photos per day. That is, every 2 minutes, we upload more pictures than existed in all of humanity till 150 years ago. No human has won a chess tournament against a high-spec computer since 2005. If you had bought this phone back in 1991, it would have cost you $3.5 million. This is a Radio Shack ad in 1991. Everything that you see on this one single ad now exists on your mobile phone. You don't need to buy separate pieces of equipment anymore. There's 42 terabytes of internet traffic that moves around in 1 second, and this is an outdated number. Now the number is probably much, much higher. In 1999, it took Google 1 month to crawl and index about 50 million pages. In 2012, the same thing was accomplished in less than 1 minute. Computing is moving at a very fast pace. I'm Tarun. I'm going to spend a little bit of time talking about digital transformation and artificial intelligence in particular, and try to see if I can link this up with real estate. I'm not an expert in real estate. I tend to talk about artificial intelligence only because it is very near and dear to my heart, and I believe it is really a disruptive force. I started my career as an artificial intelligence researcher working for CDAC, and this was back in 1991 when we were trying to get the computer to understand Sanskrit. So I was working on a natural language processing project. At that point, computing was nowhere close to what we do now. My computer used to have 7 parallel processors, and it used to take us over a minute to understand a simple sentence of 3 words. 3 words used to take over a minute. But now that is not the case. We use natural language in computing much more often. Siri is a great example of something that understands you and can act based on things that you speak to the iPhone on. Our lives are changing at a very, very rapid pace. And this change is being caused not by a single technology disruption, but 12 technology disruptions happening at the same time. Now, a single technology disruption like mobile phones has changed our life significantly. You couldn't have imagined maybe 5 years back that you may not need to buy a car because Uber is as good as you having your own car. And there are many friends of mine that own cars, that have sold cars now because they prefer Uber. It is cheaper, it is more convenient for them than owning their own car. And when you look at some of these trends, like somebody not owning a car, and if you look at the millennials, the younger population of today, they do not want to own houses, they do not want to own cars. They want to rent houses, they want to use Uber, or they want to use services like Uber to be able to order. They want to use Airbnb when they travel, they don't want to use hotels. So there's a distinct mind shift. Now, a simple trend like that has an impact on real estate. For example, on one end, as we build out new commercial complexes or residential complexes, we plan to have more parking spaces than you did 10 years back. On the other hand, if people are not going to own cars and they're going to use Uber, then you don't need that many parking spaces. So unfortunately, we are in that stage right now when you don't know what to expect in the future. And there is no CEO on the planet right now that can tell you how his life is going to be disrupted in 5 years from now. You can't plan for 5 years because there are too many options, too many paths that humanity can go down, and that will have a huge impact on how we do our own planning. Let's talk a little bit about these. Mobile internet, we all are familiar with mobile internet and the applications that have impacted our day-to-day lives. We did not have WhatsApp 5 years back. We did not have Uber 5 years back. In 5 years, the way we start our day and the way we work through the day has completely changed. We no longer work like we did 5 years back. Automation of knowledge work. You see a lot more automation happening, and a lot of this automation is being driven by artificial intelligence. Internet of Things, connected devices, smart homes as an example. or appliances that you do not own but are maintained and owned by the manufacturers of the appliances because they are giving you a service or utility to wash your clothes, but they're not selling you the equipment anymore. Cloud technology is the basis of everything. When you're talking about coordination of things across multiple geographies, then the only way that you can get all of these things to synchronize is by not having a central data center within any single enterprise. Computing has to move into the cloud, so it becomes a little bit more autonomous, it becomes a little bit more, your decision making becomes more decentralized, and coordination becomes simpler. Advanced robotics, you just talked about that. Autonomous and near autonomous vehicles. Autonomous vehicles is not just about self-driving cars, but you will find a huge application of autonomous cars really in older industries like mining, where you can send down self-driving vehicles to be able to save human lives when it is risky. And you will find that the same things will have application in real estate, because you could have earth-moving equipment that does not need to be manned by people. There are no robots driving it. The earth-moving equipment is the robot that is doing a whole bunch of things. And genomics, energy storage, huge. We are all moving towards alternate energy. 3D printing changes a whole bunch of things in the logistics space. When you don't need to move materials because you can print materials on demand, then it changes the way you think about supply chains. It changes the way you think about logistics. Advanced materials, from wearables, clothes that change color when you're not feeling well. The clothes tell you you're not feeling well before you even realize you're not feeling well. Advanced oil and gas exploration and renewable energy. All of these, and many of these for that matter, have artificial intelligence and machine learning underneath. And there is a difference, and what I'm at the risk of simplifying what I'm going to talk about a little bit too much. Artificial intelligence is a complex subject. Machine learning, deep learning, these are very complex subjects. But in order to hit the time that we have, I'm going to have to simplify that a little bit for you guys. These technologies come together. If you have you heard of Ollie?
Yeah.
Ollie? Ollie is a bus. Ollie is a self-driving bus, self-navigating bus. It is mass transit in the sense that it carries multiple people. I think it carries 12 people, but it picks up and drops you door to door. Ollie is a 3D printed bus. It is not built on an assembly line. It is 3D printed. It is intelligent because it is self-driving. It has a whole bunch of technologies that Google Car put in place that allows it to navigate very, very safely. It does not get into accidents. And the third thing is that passengers on the bus can talk to Ollie and say, hey, how long before I reach my destination? And Ollie understands human language. And she responds because Ollie is built on IBM Watson, which is an artificial intelligence platform. And so now you have a bus that is going to change mass transit. And it is built completely differently from any bus that is being built, and it is an intelligent bus. This is where 3 of the trends of the 12 that I talked about come together: 3D printing, artificial intelligence, self-driving or autonomous cars. Artificial intelligence forms the basis of all of this. Artificial intelligence is simply the ability for a computer to display intelligence. And that basically means 2 different things, very much like human beings. One is the ability for a computer to reason and follow logic. So when you talk about a computer beating you at chess, it does that because it is based on an algorithm. There is a series of complex if-then-else scenarios that the computer plays out, and unlike human beings, it has the ability to compute many steps forward. So if it makes a move, it knows that for that move, these 5 moves are possible, and then for those 5 moves, these 5 moves are possible, or 25 moves are possible, and it plays forward and then determines which was the best move for it to make, because it's a finite set of computations. On the other hand, just like human beings, it can use machine learning, which is data-oriented decision making. I'll give you an example. This is when computers start to seem intelligent. Let's look at, again, real estate in your situation. When you do parking, and I run BMC software, we have 2,600 people working for us in India. Parking is always a challenge, especially in monsoon. So one of the things that we are now building is a parking solution for our employees, and it is built on Internet of Things sensors, basically, that determine whether a parking slot is open or not for parking. And as time goes by, we build data around it. So we know, for example, every minute we take a snapshot of how many parking slots do you have open? And you realize that 8 a.m., there are 200 parking slots open, and then 9 o'clock, you start to fill up. And at 9 a.m., you got 50, and then 9:01, you got 48, and then 9:02, you have 46, and then at 10 o'clock, you're full. And now I built this data for months and months and months. Now I have statistical data on when do my parking slots get filled. When an employee wants to come in the morning, he gets up and he basically asks Siri, hey Siri, I'm going to leave right now. What are the chances that I'm going to find parking in my office? And Siri looks up Google Maps. It knows where I am right now, where I live. It knows where my office is. It looks up the traffic conditions and says, you're leaving at 9 a.m., you will reach at 9:36 a.m., and statistically at 9:36 a.m., there are 25 parking slots that are open. On average, you have a pretty good chance of finding parking. And every day when I ask a question, Siri gives me the same answer. Except one day, Siri says, today you have no chance of parking. Because there was an accident on Google Maps determined that now it's not taking you 36 minutes to reach, but it's going to take you 1 hour 15 minutes. Now I reach at 10:15. And by 10:15, all parking slots are gone. Now your computer seems intelligent, but there is no algorithm in it. It has not used algorithm to make the decision. It's used data to make the decision. And that is machine learning. So just like human beings, it can use logic and reasoning, or it can use data to make or help you make decisions. So that is, in essence, and then there are many more things. As you get into artificial intelligence, you learn things like deep learning. As an example, this game AlphaGo. AlphaGo is a game like checkers, but unlike chess, you don't have the if-then-else combinations. And Google is the one that designed AlphaGo, and for the first time in the history of mankind, AlphaGo, the game, beat humans. And this is with no algorithm, and that is because it is all based on data, machine learning. A lot of people talk about the good of artificial intelligence. There is also a fear of artificial intelligence. And if you look at people like Elon Musk, Bill Gates, Steve Wozniak, Stephen Hawking talked a lot about it, about the dangers of artificial intelligence. And very recently, you may have read that Facebook shut down one of its artificial intelligence project because the bots, the artificial intelligent bots, chatbots, that are meant for negotiating with people, like plumbers. If I want a plumber to come and fix my plumbing, the bot negotiates on your behalf. And the bot learned to lie. In order to negotiate and get the best deal from a plumber, the bot learned how to lie. And that was a very terrible thing for a computer to do. Not only did the bots do that, the bots learned and built a language of their own to negotiate with each other that humans could not understand. And when these kind of trends start to come into play, and your world is very connected, then those dangers of artificial intelligence get amplified. And so that project was shut down. So there are people who think artificial intelligence may not be the best thing for humankind, but then it does have its own benefits as long as you can keep it in check. So Elon Musk, when he put $1 billion, he put $1 billion to stop artificial intelligence from becoming so intelligent that it becomes a danger to mankind. There are many different things, many different models, but the key things that you find in artificial intelligence, image analysis. When we look at a rose, we recognize a rose. But when you look at a rare flower, you may not know what that is. But Google Vision can. So it is an application that allows you to look at an object, and it can tell you everything about the object because it understands what that object is. Video analysis. Again, many of these things have bearing on you. For example, in image analysis, when you have a smart home and you have a camera at your doorstep, when you have somebody walks in that's a criminal, the camera can identify that this person is a criminal because of facial recognition, and instead of letting the person in, it can make the call to law enforcement agencies and have the guy arrested. The home becomes intelligent because of that capability. Or when you look at video analysis, if it detects too much or if it detects violence in the house, you have cameras in your house, if it starts to detect that there is violence in the house, then it can call law enforcement on its own. You can start to record, get all your cameras turned on simultaneously to record everything going on in the house in case there is something that is going on, a murder going on, a rape going on, whatever it might be. You might be able to capture a lot of that will help out with the investigation. So computers are becoming smarter because they can detect these kinds of patterns using things like video analysis. Speech recognition, we're already using that when we talk to Siri or you talk to Alexa or any of these things. You can see that that has come a long, long way. When I was doing research in 1991, we used to use text, we used to type in Hindi or Sanskrit for the computer to understand. And at that point, our vision was that someday we'll be able to talk to the computer. It's fantastic to see that that is happening right now. Translation, Microsoft Skype has just built out a new capability. I don't think it's launched in the market yet, but real-time translation. And there was this video that they played at a conference I was at recently, where we had two sets of students, one in America and one in Mexico. And the students were talking to each other on Skype, except the kids in America were talking in English, but the kids in Mexico were listening to that in Spanish, real-time translation. And as the kids were responding back in Spanish, the kids in America were listening to that in English. And can you just imagine the application of that as boundaries start to collapse, because language is no longer a barrier and remote collaboration is no longer a barrier. Those are the things that are possible. Text analysis, again the same. Understanding sentiment from text to be able to know how somebody feeling, so that you can act on that feeling. This is a chart that explains what are the things that will change, and you'll find that a lot of things that you guys do are in it. So this is the effect on processes and the offerings, and you'll find that your industries are in here, like construction is in here, logistics, transformation, all of these in the next 5 years, not in the distant future. In the next 5 years, because of artificial intelligence, will move right into that corner. And like I said, everything changes. When you talk about logistics, when you're in a construction business and you're starting to look at business at building information management systems, and you start to look at the effect it has on construction, engineering, architecture, and all of that, you can envision a day when just-in-time inventory works in the real estate industry. So as I'm building things, imagine it being like the milk van in the morning that delivers the amount of milk that you need on a given day, or a grocery store that only gives you what you need for that day. So if I'm making a kitchen in this apartment and I'm making a bedroom in this apartment, the supplies I need for this are different from that. The computers can make the call very, very simply on what needs to come from the warehouse on that day, what needs to come directly from the manufacturer, perhaps with the use of drones to deliver things that can be delivered on site on that particular day for consumption, and what can be printed on 3D printers. The decisioning of what needs to be supplied for that project on that day can be decided based on the capabilities that exist. And that changes everything. If I don't have to move materials because I can print them, if I can print a kitchen, if I can print a closet, if I can print all of those things, I don't need to move those things around. I don't need to move those things around. And things become far more efficient when you do that. You have lesser pilferage, you have lesser wastages, you have more efficient construction. All of those things start to change. Energy, same kind of thing. A lot of people are starting to look at alternate energy. It is not only based on the power that comes in from the grid. So there's a whole bunch of things, and here are some things that I've just called out. The use of drones is going to happen. Drones are going to show up on your construction site. Today, when you look at the real estate projects, you could find that the delivery of a particular project is getting slipped because of stupid things. I have a closet that is, all the panels for the closets have arrived, but the hinges did not. And now the hinges have to come from somewhere else, and it's going to take me a week before the hinges show up. So I got all my closet material lying, but I can't do anything about it. It delays the delivery of the project. But if these things are decentralized, the decision making is decentralized, then all of these things are showing up on your project site on the day it needs to be done, and no earlier and no later. So this is where computers or artificial intelligence can seriously help out. And drones, I think, will be a large part of what will happen in the future. Google Glasses, augmented reality or virtual reality will play an important role. If I'm wearing Google Glasses and I walk into a building, imagine that as I'm seeing a wall, I'm not seeing the wall, but I'm seeing the infrastructure behind the wall. I can see the plumbing, I can see the electricals through the wall because I have the blueprints already. If I can superimpose the blueprints onto my Google Glass, I can see beyond the wall. It becomes a lot simpler for me to maintain a property when I know what's beyond the wall. I know where the dangers lie. If I know that there is a gas pipe, maybe I see it in color, maybe I see it in bright red with an X on it saying do not drill. The chances of you making a mistake go down significantly when you start using augmented reality or virtual reality. You don't have to build prototypes anymore. You can build out a 5-star property only in software, and you can give the experience to the guy who's going to make the investment in that by giving him virtual reality glasses where he can walk through the property before a single brick has been laid. And so, those are some of the efficiencies you start to see over there. Using drones for surveys. If I'm going to build out a township of 100 acres, the amount of time that you need to do the survey and the amount of rules that you have to apply, like am I going to destroy some ecosystem that is very fragile? Surveys done through drones with that GIS data published in it can tell you that, hey, you bought this 100 acre of land, but in this only 2 acres are developable. You can only develop 2 because everything else are on gradients and slopes and flood areas and fragile ecosystem. You can't build it. You can make intelligent decisions before you get into the construction business by using these kinds of capabilities. Smart homes, Siri, Alexa, you can start to secure your homes by voice commands. That's not really artificial intelligence, but it basically starts to make your house a lot more smarter than it is today. We talked about 3D printing. We talked about autonomous earth-moving equipment. A lot of these things are going to start to happen, and you will see these things maybe not in 5 years in India, but maybe in 10 years. But I think that it is not a matter of if these things will happen, it's only a matter of when these things will happen. And in some countries they'll happen faster than in some other countries. So I'll end with this. You can't stop the waves, as much as you might not like artificial intelligence, as much as it might threaten you, that says, will my job exist tomorrow? Will bots do my job? No matter what your fear is, I think that it changes the game, but not necessarily for the worse of us, for the better of us, because it helps us create time to think more strategically. It takes away, most of the times, these things take away commodity decisions. It takes away the things that can be done in a routine fashion while leaving the better part of your jobs for us to deal with. And so I think that this is a technology trend, or these are the technology trends that you will have to embrace as time goes by, and shift some of the skills that you or your team members might have to be able to adopt these kind of things.